Welcome to the summer edition of the France 24 Observers, a look back at some of the stories we brought you this year. First, a video we brought you in March from the West Bank. It shows Israeli soldiers using an attack dog during the arrest of a Palestinian teenager. Our observer is an Israeli who follows human rights issues in the occupied territories.
So the 15-second video that was recently released depicts two dogs who were just in the process of arresting a Palestinian 16-year-old youth who seems to be, of course, frightened. The dogs are just being taken off the youth by the soldiers, their handlers, while an additional soldier is heard, kind of egging the dogs on and abusing the detainee. Our volunteer actually filmed the beginning and end of this incident. However, soldiers prevented him from filming the actual dog arrest. The youth was taken to hospital and then given treatment, and he was recently charged with stone throwing, given a sentence of 6 months. So the incident depicted in this video occurred in late 2014 in the southern West Bank in a place called Beit Umar. There are quite regular clashes there between youths from the village who throw stones at soldiers who are protecting the adjacent settlement. B'Tselem has, written to the authorities on a number of cases where soldiers used dogs to arrest protesters in one case, and in other cases to arrest Palestinians who were trying to sneak into Israel through a gap in the separation barrier without permits. Security forces have a range of less lethal means that can be used, such as stun grenades, tear gas canisters, tear gas. Certainly using dogs against unarmed civilians is completely unacceptable in our mind.
Now, Ivory Coast in West Africa, a huge rubbish dump outside the commercial capital, Abidjan. Like in many other poor countries, many people earn a living by scavenging at the dump. The best of them claim to make 5 or 6 euros a day. Now, that may not sound like much, but that's more than the average wage.
They wake up every morning and go to the dump. They look for plastic bags, beer and drink cans, pieces of iron or old shoes, anything they can sell to a middleman for recycling. They work during the night too. At night there's no lighting at the dump and there are accidents. There have even been a few deaths reported. The most desperate of the scavengers climb on board the trucks. They use a sort of long pick to sort through the rubbish. The dump is really disgusting. There are all kinds of filth, things that are decomposing, fish that are rotting, dangerous waste products. The stink is unbearable. The scavengers have a trick to deal with it. They have a stiff drink of the local liquor called kutuku. They earn around 3,000 francs a day, which isn't bad, but the job is miserable because it's terrible for their health. There are cases of typhus, of diarrhea, respiratory illnesses too. It's one thing to work for a salary, but in these conditions, I don't think it's worth it. They know the dump could be closed down any time now. One man told me that he has nothing else. He's been turned away for work everywhere else. If the dump closes, he'll have to resort to stealing. It's amazing to see what people will do to survive when they have no other option.
And now for some other stories we brought you this year. So why is this woman wearing armor? It is because she doesn't want to get pinched. Kubra Kademi is a performance artist in Afghanistan. She's taking a stand against sexual harassment because every time she goes out in the street, she gets pinched, sometimes so hard that it bruises. She ended up going out for 8 minutes, but then had to escape in a taxi because the crowd of men was getting very hostile. Since then, she's had threats and is living at friends' houses. But her act has inspired some supporters, some men, other Afghans, who have gone out dressed in burqas, their way of supporting their sisters against sexual harassment. And here is another young person standing up for himself, a 12-year-old on a school bus in the US state of Georgia. The boy is a Sikh and wears a patka, the traditional headgear worn by Sikh boys. Our observer Amardeep explains that Sikhs in America have often been called terrorists since the September 11th attacks. He says they could respond that their religion has nothing to do with Islam, But they often choose not to, because they don't want to blame innocent Muslims for the attacks either. An artillery piece in Syria, no surprise given the war that's going on there. But this gun was built in Nazi Germany. It dates back to the 1930s, but today it's in the hands of a jihadist group fighting in Idlib province. Military experts suspect such weapons were looted from government arms depots. Despite its age, the equipment seems to be in full working order, still killing 80 years after it was manufactured. That's it for this week. As always, you can find more reports from our observers on our website, on our Facebook and Twitter page.